Now, Brick Baby gave Wack 30 days to come up with some paperwork. He actually asked for any case besides the Oklahoma cases. I think most people have their own understanding about what took place in Oklahoma. But he asked for every other case that he's ever been charged with where he didn't go to jail, as well as the ones I'm guessing where he went to jail. Because I asked at the end of my reaction, what paperwork was Brick asking for? And I had to go back and rewatch the video and kind of really listen to exactly what he was saying. Now, with that being said, a lot of people got my comments and began to talk about this CS2 back situation that I've been lightweight tiptoeing around because I didn't have all the information. Well, since then, I received a flurry of links as well as paperwork. So we're going to start kind of covering some of this and unraveling what's what. Now, to give you a closer idea of what the actual CS2 back case is about, or the CS2 back name, where it comes from, you have to first go into a story about Shaquille O'Neal. And we're going to watch this video and we're going to give y'all a fast forward, high speed update to everybody can get on the same page as me. Some of y'all may already be on this page, but let's just dive into it right now.
On the night of February 10th, 2008, a man by the name of Robert Ross went into a convenience store in West Hollywood. He was then kidnapped at gunpoint and was forced to drive to a home in South Central Los Angeles, in the territory of the Main Street Mafia Crips. There, he was beaten, robbed, and demanded to return Shaquille O'Neal's sex tape. The year is now 2004, and the Los Angeles Lakers are losing their groove. They lost their first NBA Finals in the Kobe and Shaq era, and while their status was nothing but solidified, Shaq's time in LA was almost up. Around this time, Shaq created a new label with his cousin Money Mark Stevens, a shrewd businessman who he regularly consulted with while he had Twism Records.
All right, so that's something interesting that I didn't know. I didn't know that Mark Stevens and Shaq was cousins, but I've been seeing his name in the paperwork. All right.
Which went under in 2001. This time, Shaq was looking to be the executive rather than the talent, and was looking for artists to partner with for his label. Now, enter Robert Ross, aka Studda Box, due to his penchant for stuttering when he gets nervous or excited. He met Shaquille O'Neal at a party in LA in around 2003, and they became good friends. Studda Box happened to know a lot of people around the music scene in LA.
So Studda Box and Robert Ross is the same individual. Okay.
Shaq's new label, looking for new artists, commissioned Studda Box to go and find new people for him. And he followed through, plus interest it seems. Enough to where Shaq shouted him out in a 2006 remix of his song with a Notorious B.I.G.
Studda Box. Oh, Studda Box was in the video. It's getting interesting.
It's not all he shouted out though. In fact, he had a lot of guys and a set to rap.
Man, Money Marcus Bullet, cousin Kenny is my cat, man. Dog and Box got my back, man. K Slay Corey.
Dog and Box got my back, man. So I'm kind of like going like probably ahead of what he's gonna say, but I imagine when he say Dog and Box got my back, man, he's talking about Dale Dog, a famous Main Street Crip, and Studda Box, who also is or was a Main Street Crip.
Guns Main Street, no Shaq, man.
And he shouts out Main Street. Okay.
So who are these guys? And what's Main Street? Well, see, Robert Ross was affiliated with the Main Street Mafia Crips of South Central LA. This is where stuff gets sticky. While I've lived in South Central LA before, I have not had a singular gang interaction. Like the closest I got, I went to a basketball court alone on the weekend, broad daylight. It's the middle of the day on a weekend and there's no kids, no one around. I'm wondering what's going on. I see some gang tags, I put it together and I get up out of there, I turn on the jets. I am not about that life. So I brought in someone who is. Lamonte Deuce M. Sims is an OG coming from the Fruitown Brims, a set of the Bloods in West South Central. He's worked with guys like YG and Ty Dolla $ign before, and featured on the viral Brim anthem, Hit Yo Brimmin'. He's also the owner of the media outlet Active Chucks, where he's interviewed major LA players like Suge Knight, as well as our main men Robert Ross and Money Mark Stevens.
So Deuce Sims got an interview with Mark Stevens and with Robert Ross. All right, this gonna be like a few. We gonna have to keep going and going and going with this. Ain't gonna be one video I see. Let's keep going though.
Studda Box is the nexus to this whole investigation.
In late 2007, Ross formed a relationship with his neighbor Ray J and was able to bring him onto Shaq and Mark Stevens' label with the help of Death Row affiliate Cash Jones, aka
Cash McElroy Jones. going on?
Wack 100. That'll be important later. During the initial negotiations, Robert Ross and Mark Stevens agreed that Ross would make a percentage of royalties based off of whatever music that Ray J and the label put out together. But when they met in New York a few weeks later to finalize the deal, Mark Stevens balked. He gave Ross a $20,000 finder's fee and refused to pay him any royalties.
Now, mind you, Robert Ross is a real fancy, flashy dude. He's driving around Los Angeles at this point in Rolls Royces and Phantoms. He's really heavily and wealthy man. I think he had did a fraud allegedly and acquired about $7-8 million in a fraud scam that he had going on. So he's a street millionaire.
So naturally, Studda Box wasn't going for it. And neither was Ray J, actually. He refused to sign the deal until Studda Box got his pay, but the
So Studda Box had that bag, and Ray J went with him to New York to get this deal for Koch. But Ray J was going to sign the Koch, and Studda Box was going to get a certain percentage of it, but they only gave him $20,000. He wasn't feeling that.
The facilitator in New York, Koch Records, were going to nix the deal if he didn't sign soon. So Studda Box tells Ray J sign the deal, and
I'll get my money out of these guys, how I get my money out of them.
the project ended up being a commercial success, topping the charts of Billboard Hip Hop and R&B. The main single was Sexy Can I, which actually had Shaq in the background of the music video.
Is it true that Shaq invested in your music career?
Yeah. He gave us, I think, $1.5 million for Sexy Can I.
Damn, man. It's crazy how all these people are intertwined in this story. Like, and a lot of this, like, got to do with, like, Wack and Ray J, Shaq, the Main Streets. We seen a picture of Suge Knight. Apparently there's some type of Death Row Pac investigation or a Biggie investigation connection to this as well.
Wow. Money Mark, Wack 100, we had another partner, and then Shaq. And we recouped the number back for Shaq in, I don't know, 5 months, 6 months. And everything else has been profitable since.
All the while, Studda Box was still trying to get his money back. After weeks of constantly requesting money from Mark and Shaq, there was no budging from either guy. So
Robert Ross and Cash Jones come up with a conspiracy to blackmail and extort Shaquille O'Neal and Mark Stevens for the money that Robert Ross felt he was owed for putting together the Ray J deal.
now hold on, I know that sounds crazy, but hear it out. So Shaq and Studda Box are good friends at this point, right? Studda Box even introduced him to other members of the Main Street Crips, including the leader Liddell Rawls, aka Del Dog, remember that, and Kevin Haran, who went by the name of Lil Shaq. Sound familiar?
Dog and Box got my back, man. Main Street, Lil Shaq, man.
So, not only does Shaq rep the Main Street set, but the other people that he mentioned are literally his family. Mark
Money Marcus Bullet.
and Kenny
Cousin Kenny is my cat, man.
are his blood relatives, first cousins. And Corey Guns
Corey Guns.
is his godson. But who gets the screen time? Not Kenny or Corey, but Studda Box.
But him and Shaq was tight, and Shaquille O'Neal, prior to the deal, hung out with him, partied with him, even went to his house where Robert Ross leaves. Shaquille O'Neal had invited his female friend there, had sex with her there, and it was security cam footage when Robert Ross came home where he sees, oh man, he boom boom brought on my couch.
If we don't know one thing about the history of Wack 100, there's always a videotape or a recording within the story. Regardless if he has the videotape or not, regardless if he has the footage or not, there's always a tape or recording or something. With the shit with Jay Prince and Larry Hoover, the shit with Kanye West, the shit with Ray J, this right here. Like, it's always a Nipsey Hussle. It's always a videotape or something behind the scenes lurking. And in this particular situation, it looks like there's about to be some type of extortion going on.
You know what I'm saying? Shoved his hands all in her ass and all of this stuff.
So yeah, Studda Box, Robert Ross, came home to a security cam footage and saw Shaq. Yeah. So anyway, that's leverage. This happened around July 2007, before Shaquille divorced his wife Shawnee. That's infidelity from a global superstar in the 2000s. TMZ would literally be slobbering. TMZ was gonna slobber all over that. So through Cass Jones, Wack 100, Ross claimed to have recorded and saved the footage, and insinuated that he could sell it to TMZ and make a lot of money. Additionally, get this.
Now, Robert Ross, another story plot twist, seeing that Shaquille O'Neal and Shawnee O'Neal were having a rocky relationship. As the story goes, he allegedly played into be a counselor, and it is rumored began to have sex with Shawnee O'Neal. I don't know if that's true or not. Like I said, Robert Ross lies about a lot, but it's been consistent. Even a lot of the police officers in their reports were citing that this allegation might have possibly been true. Shaquille O'Neal hired a private investigator to follow his ex-wife. She follows his ex-wife and brings back footage of Robert Ross and Shawnee O'Neal having brunch together out in, they met halfway and met in Texas or somewhere down south back east.
During this time, apparently Robert Ross told Shawnee O'Neal about the sex tape and even offered to sell it to her. She also said she didn't believe there was a sex tape because he was a liar and he never slept with her. So anyways, regardless of all of what happened previously, I think we can all agree here that Robert Ross is moving hella shiesty. I mean, he did say he's gonna get it back his way. I mean, he's a street millionaire. What do you expect? But here's where he messed up. He messed with Shaq Diesel. Hey, no glaze. One thing Shaq didn't play about back then was leaks. During Kobe Bryant's deposition in his 2004 Colorado case, he name-dropped Shaq to the people who were interviewing him, claiming that Shaq would not pay his woman to say anything, and that he's already paid up to $1 million for stuff like this. Now listen, I'm not gonna choose a side for you guys, but the alleged victim, 3 days before she charged Kobe, bragged about being with him to 5 people. She'd apparently, at least from Kobe's point of view, to cover his tracks. Now here goes one of his business partners, who, by the way, had a track of criminal activity, and Shaq was claiming to want to reform him, but he'd also been dropping Shaq's name to police officers. So this is the guy who's trying to throw all of that now down the drain. Shaq wasn't going. Enter Del Dog, the leader of the Main Street Mafia Crips, and one of the most famous men of South Central LA.
You had to hear about Del Dog. He was like God.
Christened the Street Apostle, Del Dog was the founder of 4 Life Records and the 4 Life Mafia Car Club, the latter of which became the predecessor for an entire car subculture in Japan. He was also tight with Steve Harvey and Ice Cube, both of whom starred in a documentary funded by Shaquille O'Neal. Seen as nearly a biblical figure in his hood, he organized toy and food drives every Thanksgiving, Christmas, and summer, with Shaq even pulling up sometimes though. Additionally, he was a devout follower of Christ in his later years, of which he did his best to spread the good word around his hood. Like one of his members said,
"We was cripping for the street, now we cripping for Christ."
But like every person in power, there are 2 sides to the coin.
He's like a legend in Los Angeles. Some people even call him the king of Los Angeles. If you listen to most people, he was like a ghetto Robin Hood, right? Necessary evils.
Necessary evils.
Lord, I cannot kill all these niggas hating on me, man. That's what I said to God. I said, I cannot kill all these niggas that's hating, man.
2 weeks later, Robert Ross, Studda Box, was at the Pink Dot in West Hollywood when he encountered some of his old partners from the Main Street Crips. They blocked his car from leaving and told him that Dog wanted to see him. They forced him at gunpoint to drive his Rolls Royce back to South Central LA, where they dropped him off in front of a member's house, where Liddell Rawls, Del Dog, was waiting. Per Ross's account, Dog and some other guys started jumping him, pistol whipping and all of this stuff for about an hour. They then took him to a studio in the back of the house, where they beat him some more, took his diamond necklace, his diamond earrings, Rolex watch, and $15,000 in cash. While saying, Mark and Shaq know who the real boss is now. Del Dog then demanded the tape and $100,000, to which Studda Box replied, his mom and sister needed to see him soon or else they would get suspicious. But he'd be able to get $60K and the tape in just a few hours. Del Dog then handed him his keys for his house and his car, and let him out. Now, this is where our story gets even juicier. Robert Ross, up to this point, had been working with the police.
He was working with Detective Darren Dupree and Greg Caden, which was a joint task force. They were both LAPD officers, primarily focused on the Tupac and Biggie murder investigations.
This shit is like way crazy.
Whoa, hold on, huh? Wait, why? Why? Well,
Robert Ross Studda Box was also a suspect in the unaliving of Biggie Smalls, the notorious B.I.G., Christopher Wallace. Well, they had informants saying that the police did it and the hitman name was Amir Muhammad. Well, Studda Box went by the alias. Robert Ross went by the alias.
And to top it all off,
the Main Street Crips are already under federal investigation. I'm talking about home invasions, drug dealings. The FBI, ATF, DEA already has federal wiretaps going on.
Which is why this crime was able to be so fleshed out in the first place. They'd already had wiretaps placed on the Main Street Crips. Man. Listen, we talking about Biggie and Tupac on an
I got the transcripts of some of the wiretaps.
NBA channel. Bro, like and subscribe, man. Who's really doing this? Back to Box.
He leaves, jumps in his Rolls Royce. He calls his handler, Darren Dupree, and Darren Dupree tells him to walk and report the kidnapping and robbery at the local police station, which he did.
Now, Robert Ross's informant situation and motives are still murky, but what is known is that instead of going home and receiving the tape and the $60,000, he went to the LAPD's 77th Division Station.
The most popular police station in the history of California gang talk. The 77th Street Division.
Beaten and bloodied, and told the officers about what had just happened, and implicated Liddell Rawls, Shaquille O'Neal, and Mark Stevens. Now, was there any evidence other than hearsay to prove that Shaq and Mark Stevens put a hit out on Robert Ross? No, not really. But remember the wiretaps. The LAPD found that around the time that Robert Ross was kidnapped, a flurry of calls was exchanged between Mark Stevens and Liddell Rawls. Now, I just finished up The Wire season 1, and bro, when I read that, I said, bro. Tony Mark called Del Dog to handle Studda Box, something Greg Kading, the officer that worked with Studda Box and the handler of the Tupac and Biggie cases, also corroborated.
Shaq's like, man, this clown's trying to extort money from me, blah, blah, blah. He tells Mark. Well, Mark reaches out to Del Dog and says, man, you gotta swear your guy away. Can you deal with Studda Box? Tell him to knock this shit off. So Del Dog and the Main Street Crips go and they discipline and threaten Studda Box.
But Ross didn't press charges right away. Sometime after the kidnapping, he was incarcerated again, which led to a delay for almost 3 years. Then, in the summer of 2011, he officially filed a civil complaint accusing Shaq, Mark Stevens, Del Dog, and 7 other Main Street Crip members of kidnapping, assault and battery, and robbery. From there, the case was picked up from all the major news outlets, with bombastic headlines like Shaq Attack and the like. But then, after the preliminary hearing, the case was inexplicably dropped. Why? Well, apparently, Robert Ross perjured himself in court. He lied on the stand. Wack 100, his former partner, and in on that first Ray J deal, claims to know why.
To help a certain individual out, I called my attorney, had the attorney put Greg Kading and Mark Stevens together. They put that together to ask Box on stand, if you go pull the paperwork, have you ever been a confidential informant to work for the LAPD, the FBI as a known snitch?
He put, hold on, I gotta back that up. Wack said he put his lawyer together with somebody to make them ask him the question, had he ever, hold on.
His former partner, and in on that first Ray J deal, claims to know why.
To help a certain individual out, I called my attorney, had
to help a certain individual out. He ain't say no name, but he said to help a certain individual out, he called his attorney.
The attorney put Greg Kading and Mark Stevens together. They put that together to ask Box on stand, if you go pull the paperwork, have you ever been a confidential informant to work for the LAPD, FBI as a known snitch? He lied on the oath and said no. Greg Kading takes a stance, provides a document that this dude is in fact one of our informants, this, that. At that point, the judge looks at it, he perjured himself, therefore any allegations or any claims he's bringing on anybody is non and void. They dropped the charges on these 7 Crips and let them go. So in a sense, this Paul Roof freed the Crips.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to understand what the hell just happened. So if Greg Kading was partners with the handler and they was investigating Studda Box and the whole, I mean, he was working for them, giving them information, and I'm confused.
Now, time for another plot twist. Wack 100 was also allegedly an FBI informant at the time, but this time for Death Row Records, in regarding the Biggie Smalls case. What's going on, bro? Lamonte, who's actually got beef right now with Wack 100, broke it down for me. Buckle up. So, for context, after the death of Biggie Smalls, there were allegations that the LAPD was involved in the murder. And not only that, but they hid their involvement in the preceding trials. Biggie's family then filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the LAPD in the city of LA, demanding over $400 million.
Detective Greg Caden, he helped federalize that Main Street case, but that wasn't his case. He's running the Biggie murder investigation and the Tupac Death Row Suge stuff. So that's his priority. There's a $400 million lawsuit against the LAPD and the city of Los Angeles, which would have bankrupt. Greg Caden and Darren Dupree, the task force was created to bring up a different theory that didn't implicate any police officers in participating or assisting in the unaliving of Biggie Smalls, the notorious Big. That's his only focus, to bring up a theory so that they could get off this $400 million lawsuit. If Detective Coet would have spoke up on the stand, or Detective Fournier, they could have asked them about everybody who was on this investigation, including the informant. Informants being confidential source 2 back.
Now, who is CS2 back? Well, according to Lamonte's findings, that is Wack 100 Cash Jones, who's listed in the investigations while Del Dog was speaking with Mark Stevens. Through Mark Stevens, who is now Cash Jones's employer at Deja 34 Records thanks to the Ray J deal, he wanted to convey the information that Studda Box had gone sour. Del Dog declines. The police investigation referred to him as CS2, confidential source 2, and Mark Stevens confirmed his identity later on. The priority being the case of the notorious B.I.G. and Jones's ability to be able to point out the culprit as being Wardell Fowles, aka Poochie, as a plausible story. If the police officer—
Oh my God, man. Now, there is video, I want to say it was a Vlad TV interview, where the first time I heard about Poochie allegedly being the person who took out Biggie, and I believe that there's a conversation as well where Wack is speaking about this too. I don't know if this dude got that particular information from Deuce Sims. I could ask Deuce Sims myself if he came up with it, or if he like put dude onto it. But this shit right here is deeper than I thought.
Officers working on the Studda Box case were to testify, they were liable to exposing Cash Jones's relationship with the police due to him being involved tangentially, and thus rupturing the relationship needed to have a working theory to save the city of LA and the LAPD $400 million. So they left their lower-ranking informant out to dry, and the case was dropped. But hey, that's just a theory.
Oh, so they saying, listen, we gonna go ahead and expose Studda Box, because really he's like lower level informant, so we can actually still conceal the identity of CS2, which they're saying is Wack 100. We gonna go get what Mark Stevens said next and see what he said about these wiretaps and about the conversations that he had with Wack versus what was said in the transcripts that was sent over to me last night. Get in the comment section, though. Let me know what y'all think about this so far, man. Y'all already know what it is, man. Ruler Gang.